purely ornamental, and why do you have all the power? And so you had a next rebellion. And meanwhile, Vaishnavas were becoming more and more well organized, and the Kshatriyas, in order to support their lifestyle, were borrowing money from Vaishyas, where trade was going on and everything like that. So the next was the rebellion of the Vaishyas against the Kshatriyas. This is epitomized, the American Revolution, because all the people who owned land and slaves and property in America, they were not noble. They were, colonizers in America. They had a lot of money, and why should we be sending tax back to England? So they started it, really, America. And then the French Revolution followed in there, And then you had philosophers who were saying, like Diderot, he wrote, mankind will never be free until the last king is strangled with the intestines of the last priest. This was the mood, right? So then the Vaishyas become, super controllers. They own everything. They take over whatever property is there. And of course, they misuse their power. Who's to stop them? And so therefore you have another set of social movement, the communist and socialist revolutions, to the Shudras against the Vaishyas. And that's been our history. I wrote Prabhupada about this. This is my idea of what happened. And he said, yeah, that's true. But at the time I wrote this letter to Prabhupada, the communists were still in charge of Russia and so on in China. But then, now that's gone. So I don't know what's going to be next. Who's actually, it looks like to me like maybe the Vaishyas are really coming back really, really strong again and running everything and hiding their wealth and controlling everything. So Prabhupada wanted us, his movement, to become the Brahmanas. We had a political party, and one time the In God We Trust Party for Purified Leaders, and Prabhupada talked to us about what our movement should be ultimately doing is we become the Brahmanas and give guidance to society. And so here, this is what now the intellectuals today are confused. Most of them are nihilists. They don't know what the truth is. They look for it, they can't find it. You read contemporary philosophers and thinkers, they don't know what's going on. And those people who are into religion, they're mostly fanatics. Or else they don't believe in anything, but still, like to console people by practicing an old religion. The English poet Yeats said about the modern world, the worst are full of passionate intensity, and the best lack all conviction. That's a state. So you either get fanatics or you get nihilists. They don't know, there's no guidance. Brahmana is supposed to be one who can see, not only see what is the truth, knows how to actually perceive the source of everything and the directions that come from it, but also bring it to bear on practical affairs, apply it. This jnana vijnana, knowledge of the absolute truth and practical application. This is what qualifications of the Brahmana. So I think our movement, we're just waiting for the time that we can give guidance to society, but we have to become qualified ourselves, first of all. It's very important. So that's why here, this is, the Brahmana is the best within the material world. So Prabhupada wants to say that how among the Brahmanas the Vaishnava is the best. Because a Brahmana, he says, he knows that he's not this body, that he's spirit, soul, that he himself is spirit. But then some are focused on the what they know of the absolute truth is just the impersonal Brahman. Others also know Paramatma. And then, but the best are those who understand Bhagavan, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So that's why he says, from the Vedas we learn that the personality of Godhead is the Supreme Person. There is a Supreme Person. He mentions every living entity is an individual person. So, where does everything come from? Janmadasyataha. Brahman is that from which everything comes. So, how are we persons if that from which you come is not a person? Where does it come from? Now, what's happened in history in India is a way. This is the trick that Shankaracharya pulled off. Everything doesn't come. The Vedanta Sutra begins, Brahman is Janmadasyataha, that from which everything comes. So all this world comes from Brahman. What Shankaracharya does is tell you in a roundabout way, so you don't notice, that everything doesn't come from Brahman. Brahman has no energies. It's very funny because you point out to people this is his actual teaching, they're shocked. Because there's been so much propaganda that actually he's following the Vedas. He denies what Vyasadeva, he's saying basically Vyasadeva was wrong. Everything is the energy of Brahman. And therefore, whatever is in the effect, you can find the original in the cause. But Shankaracharya says that it's illusion. This whole world arises from this illusory superimposition upon Brahman. And if you remove the illusion, there's just one thing, Brahman. I don't exist, you don't exist, God doesn't exist, we're all, it's just one, that beside no second thing. Because I think, you see, if there was Brahman and a world, then there would be two things. But we're talking, the word absolute, the opposite is relative. So they take this idea of the absolute. So if there's a second thing, there's God in the world, that would limit God, because there would be two. And so third, there's no second thing. Ekam eva advitiya Brahman. Brahman is that besides which there is no second thing. The actual solution is that Brahman includes the world. This is that there's nothing but Krishna. Yet nothing is Krishna save and except. This is Achincha Veda Veda Tattva. This is the correct way that this is put together. So we should know that. And therefore we should take care of Krishna's energies. We should just not try to, it's all illusion, let's forget it. Or let those other people play with illusion, we'll just become transcendental. No, this is Krishna's energy. It's his property. It should be used in Krishna's service. We don't try to enjoy the world, but we don't try to renounce it either. Both positions are false. You try to enjoy this world, then it's Maya. And then you say, oh, it's all Maya, I renounce it. That's also false. It's Krishna's energy. So, for these various reasons, the Vaishnava position, I'm convinced, is true. And that the ultimate truth is the Supreme Person. We are persons, and therefore, that from which we come as personality is also there. You cannot give what you have not got. It's not, our individuality is not an illusion. Each one of us is a distinct, eternal, individual person. And the Supreme Lord is the Supreme Person. And He's not only supremely absolute, because nothing is different from Him, but He's also supremely relative. He has a mother. He has relatives. He has a father. In fact, He's got more people related to Him in different ways than anyone else. So because to say that God is a person is to say that God is social. Because personality only comes out in a relationship with other people. So this is, Bhaktisiddhanta says that Mayavad philosophy, he calls it lax, an indolent presentation of the Supreme. Lax means lazy, sloppy, and indolent means sleepy. It's like not very bright. A lax and indolent presentation of the personality of Godhead. Yeah, lax is more like careless, and indolent is lazy. Careless and lazy presentation of the absolute truth. So anyway, so that's why Prabhupada says that he says, a Vaishnava is superior to a Brahmana because whereas a Brahmana knows he is Brahman, not matter, that much they know. We can say too, Aham Brahmasmi, I am Brahman. This is the spirit soul is. But Krishna says about himself in the Bhagavad Gita, Param Brahman. He's the Supreme Brahman. But the Vaishnava, he's Brahman, but eternal servant of the Supreme Brahman. So this says that therefore worship of a Vaishnava is superior to worship of the deity in the temple, Prabhupada says. Vishnu Chakravarti Thakur says, Shakshat Dari Twaina Samasta Shastra. Hear his prayers to the spiritual master. In Sanskrit, Shakshat Hari Twa, describing the spiritual master as Shakshat, directly, Hari Twa. It's Hari. I've heard devotees say, yeah, the spiritual master is Shakshat Hari, directly Krishna. But the word in Sanskrit has here an instrumental ending on it, is Shakshat Hari Twa. If you see the TWA in the end is the equivalent of the English NESS. He is directly, has Hariness. He's like Hari. Haritwa. And Samasta Shastra. And this is stated in all the Shastras. He's directly has the qualities or the characteristics of the Supreme Lord, like the Supreme Lord. But it doesn't say he's God. So Sakshat Haritwa means the representative of God, like that. As Prabhupada says here, as good as, for all practical purposes. When you say represent, in English it means to present over again, represent. So this is, and then Prabhupada says, this does not mean, however, that the Vaishnava thinks he's God. And then he goes on to say, a Vaishnava may be worshipped as good as God, but that person thinks I am God's servant. And even Prabhupada, you can see one becomes very, very humble. And may be honored by others as doing something great. I heard once a conversation between Prabhupada and some Indian gentleman who was praising Prabhupada. For having done a miracle. And Prabhupada said, no, I'm not a magician. He said, I haven't done anything miraculous. He said, the only thing is to my credit is that I have always remained the servant. I have never tried to be the master. And this is really, Prabhupada always thought himself, it's just like the prana mantra we have, which he gave to us. He is Saraswata Deva. He is the servant of Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati. He does this as his servant. And so he was always very, very conscious that I'm carrying on. What I discovered when I was researching this book on Prabhupada's position, that how much Srila Prabhupada studied Bhaktisiddhanta, saw what he was doing, and just continued on in the same way. He didn't try, he just simply tried to do whatever he did. You know, Bhaktisiddhanta had sent preachers to the West, was planning to go himself. But everything fell apart. He got disgusted with his preacher, called him back, so was sending some other people. But then, you know, when it was 1933 that the preachers went to London. Bhaktisiddhanta passed away in 1936. In 1939, World War II broke out. So, you know, there was a break. For millions of people to die or whatever had to happen. And Prabhupada ended up coming to America, and he chastised himself in public. My spiritual master told, when I was a young man, he told me to preach in the West. I couldn't do anything until my old age. Now I'm trying to do something. This is how he's thinking, but he came at the right time. Now, Krishna's in charge of timing. And to the right place too, although that wasn't, Prabhupada was just going to come to the West, but the ship that was available was going to America, so that's why he went. Basically, it wasn't like a big calculation. The normal thing was to go to England, but anyway, that's what he did. So we should take this mission very, very seriously. To actually, Prabhupada has given us so many formulas, how to do things. He started, we can understand from the fact that he started farm communities to show us how to have self-sufficient communities. People may think we're going backwards, but actually we're going forwards, because I think many people in the world are starting to realize that the production of food and the production of energy is going to have to be as local as possible. you know. And one of the best ways to do this is to plow with oxen. Use bulls to plow. Because they really are quite wonderful in the sense that people have discovered that even cow dung is so valuable as a fertilizer and other things that even if all you get from a cow is cow dung, it's worth it. If you make full use of it. You can convert it into methane gas to use for things like that. It's fertilizer. It's medicinal. Our place in what's it called in outside of Mumbai? Eco Village. They have various medicines made from cow dung that are pretty far out. For years I had like this hard scaly skin on the back of my hands, and the doctors gave me some kind of very heavy duty lotion to put on it twice a day to keep it, you know, from spreading any further. And then I got some powder from these people in Eco Village. You mix it with a little water, spread it on your skin, you know, to help your skin, and it went away. I don't even have to keep using it. It's actually cured it. Well, I'll tell you one thing. The modern pharmaceutical companies would not like something that actually cures it. They want something you have to keep buying it, you know? That's the problem when there are no brahmanas and no kshatriyas and everything is vaishyas. They want to sell you so many things that are bad for you and you have to keep buying again and again anyway. So there are, Prabhupada has given us all this direction that we need to follow up on and become the brahmanas who have this. Prabhupada said that another characteristic of a brahmana, they can learn anything and teach anything. He said so that in India, and a brahmana, mode of living of a brahmana is donations. They simply don't take a salary. As soon as you, actually, according to Vedic understanding, as soon as you get a salary, wages, you're a Shudra. The Brahmanas were independent because they lived simply on donations. Kshatriyas, well, they're the head of the state, so they could collect tax. And of course they could conquer other Kshatriyas and take their kingdoms and stuff like that, whatever you made from warfare or whatever. So, you know, Kshatriya, that was his mode, taxation, fines, and so on. And people were happy to support Kshatriyas because they protected them. Not everybody wants to carry a gun. They do in America. Everybody wants to be a cowboy, but that's really, most people would rather be protected. Somebody else carries the guns. I mean, a Kshatriya is a far-out person. They're willing to risk their lives to protect other people. Not everybody is like that. So they're very chivalrous. So you need Kshatriyas to manage and to protect. Vaishyas also are independent. They own businesses. They have fields that are productive. And those the Shudra is the general assistant. Prabhupada called a general assistant. It lacks maybe the capacity for independent action. But then there are Shudras that serve Brahmanas, Shudras that serve Kshatriyas. That's what a civil servant is a Shudra. He's paid to work for the clerks. This is the Kayastha class of India. Anyway, that's the organization. So I've come to give you. So the Brahmana can learn anything and teach anything. How does he live on donation? So Prabhupada described a Brahmana would come to a village and people would say, oh, here's a place you can sit, and you teach their children. You teach them how to read, write, whatever they need, you teach them. And you don't demand a fee. He said in this way, India meant free education for everyone. But people would say, oh, this nice Brahmin is teaching our children, let's give him something. Could you take something for somebody when you get back? That's, you know, here's some rice, here's some cloth. So he never wanted for anything. You know, I mean, today if you say free, people just take it and never think that they should give anything back because things have deteriorated. But that was the ideal. So anyway, Prabhupada has told us this blueprint for how society should be run. And we should study very carefully all the things that Prabhupada has told us how to do. He did have his farm communities. He even had a political party for a while. We did that. We studied all these political science. I even wrote an article, Political Science for the Age of Kali, you know. So the idea is that, to my mind, you know, is that more and more you will find out that we have skills and knowledge that people will very much need. Okay, any questions or comments?
It was just some years ago I heard that when the GBC or sannyasis travel, that then they should talk 10% of the lecture about farms and
yeah, Prabhupada said that at one time. Yeah, it's very important. You notice the problem, people became discouraged, at least in America, because it's very hard to keep people down on farms. Everybody wants cars and fast internet connections and all those things. Although I don't think that the farmers of the future will never not have technology, but it would be very appropriate technology, what you could use to get the greatest production out of the soil. So you'll have to see, but if your food production and then production is local, and you keep it that way, you'll find out that whatever technology you can use, you'll see what you need and what you don't need. Even if you have motor vehicles, you know that perfectly within our technology to build, say, an automobile that would last forever. You wouldn't have to do that every 2 years, you need a new one. You could do that. They could have done it years and years ago. But what's the profit if you buy one car, you have it for the rest of your life? Nobody wants that. So they make them, they call it planned obsolescence. Even they change the style, so, oh, you have last year's car. It's like fashion in clothes, you know, why does that have to change all the time? So you have to keep buying new things that you don't need. This fashion has not changed for a very long time, but otherwise, you know, people are always buying new things and new anyway. Yeah, we've had a hard time. So some places in India, they've done very well with it. I think some places maybe in Russia also. But mostly it's been very difficult. And my own conclusion, having been involved with Gita Nagari Farm, it's still going on.